Chris Paul hadn't spoke since that Clippers breakup, but he's got sources all over the media talking for him. By the time Chris is done, the entire world will hate his old team more than they already do. Like, you pick a fight with the ultimate politician, Chris Paul. Dude is a pro at this. All smiles, family man persona, and also the biggest a-hole in the NBA behind the scenes. How does he pull that off? By controlling the narrative. But before we get to how he's pulling the strings, what do we know actually happened? Well, the Clippers knew CP's MO, so it was a risk to bring him in, but they didn't plan to suck this bad. They were like, oh, winning cures all, so this'll work. But pretty soon, things went south, and the CP3 gamble blew up in their face. So front office guy Lawrence Frank heard that Chris was talking trash about him, the coaches, and the players, so he called Chris out. CP then apologized to the entire locker room, like he knew he messed up. So getting sent home, probably not a huge surprise, but it could be a horrible way to end his career. Like, CP3 is such a jerk, it ruined his retirement. What a terrible narrative. So CP cooked up a narrative of his own for the public to believe. All he had to do was start working his sources. First, called up Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. Even posted a screenshot of them laughing on FaceTime. But the next day, Blake would go on a broadcast with Chris Haynes, a friendly CP3 reporter. And first, Haynes explains to people what really happened. I mean, yeah, there was friction, but Chris tried to make things right.
Ultimately, Chris Paul elected to apologize to his teammates a few days later if his words or actions were misconstrued. And with that, he asked Lawrence Frank, I was told, to set up a meeting between him and Ty Lue, and sources said Lue refused to meet with Chris Paul.
And that's it. The end of the story, apparently. Just refused to meet with Chris Paul. No reason given. No T. Lue side of the story, just Chris Paul's side. We are getting one side of this argument. So based on what we just heard, Ty Lue is basically a petty, insecure, immature person for no reason. The exact opposite of his reputation. Oh, the Chris Paul narrative going to work. And by the way, did you hear that locker room story? He said Chris apologized if his words were misconstrued. The classic, I'm not sorry, I'm just sorry that you misunderstood. What was that? Chris Paul basically wrote this entire broadcast. So next up, his FaceTime buddy Blake Griffin. But this message is sponsored by Raycon. If you're looking for a holiday gift, I have been using Raycon's Everyday Earbuds Classics, and honestly, they are so good. I love that I can play my music, block out everything around me. It is perfect for the gym where I use them the most. I even use them when I'm blow drying my stupid new long hair. Yes, that's actually a thing. Right now, though, they are up to 20% off for the holidays, so definitely grab them while you can. Now, these everyday earbuds have upgrades like active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity, which means 2 devices at once, and an ergonomic fit that stays put while I'm active. And new colors, yes, my favorite is straight carbon black. But here's the kicker. Raycon delivers the same premium audio quality as the big brands, but at half the price. Add in over 3 million happy customers and a 30-day happiness guarantee, there is zero reason to overpay. Plus, the Everyday Earbuds Classics are here for holiday season. Raycon audio products are up to 20% off this holiday season. Just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com, buyraycon.com/amhoops to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. And order by December 15th to guarantee delivery by Christmas, because great gifts should not show up late. And I love the dude, but he clearly still hates owner Steve Ballmer, and for good reason. He sold Blake on retiring a Clipper, then sold his contract to Detroit as soon as things went south. And the fire there still burns, because when asked for his reaction, Blake calmly threw grenades at his old team.
I'm disappointed that nobody's reached out to Chris, because you can build a new arena. You can be at games, you can cheer on the team, you can have all this high energy, but at the end of the day, an organization is built on how you treat people.
Sorry, is he talking about Chris or himself? Because this is supposed to be his reaction to the Chris Paul situation, not his own situation like 10 years ago. But I don't even blame Blake. Okay, he should talk like this. Chris is his boy, they were teammates. We don't even really want players to be objective. It's part of the fun. We do expect that from reporters. And the one thing we heard about CP was going behind the coach's back. So Chris Haynes actually has an example of this. Hosting Dallas, Kawhi just back healthy. You see him struggling to keep up with Klay Thompson. So clips timeout, CP goes to the team and says, yo, you guys need to switch with Kawhi to stop Klay. Sure enough, John Collins switches the assignment, but the next day Jeff Van Gundy calls a meeting and says, "Hey man, you're not the coach. I'm the defensive coach. You might have had that leeway in the past, but not anymore." So that's why Chris posted the definition of leeway on his IG. But the entire thing is suspect. Obviously meant to show the Clips as insecure and petty, and CP as the good guy. Haynes even tries to downplay CP's actions like it was no big deal, and makes Jeff Van Gundy sound terrible. But Chris Paul gave Haynes this play. It's like seeing a screenshot of a text argument instead of seeing the whole conversation. We have no idea what actually happened. Just listen to Haynes basically defend Chris Paul in that Van Gundy argument.
He asked Chris Paul if he changed up the defensive assignment yesterday. And Chris said, "No, I didn't change up the assignment. I just suggested, hey, we might want to have somebody else guarding Clay right now because Kawhi is not warm yet."
My goodness, could that have been any more from the Chris Paul point of view? It's like Haynes isn't even trying here to hide the fact that he is running cover for CP3 through the media. But there are actually a few people who are willing to call BS. Like Kendrick Perkins, which kind of sucks because I know a lot of people don't like him, but he knows people on the Clippers, and Perk exposed what CP3 was doing behind T. Lue's back in the locker room. Perk basically says, yo, Ty not talking to Chris Paul should be a huge red flag. And yes, the Clippers suck, but CP was making things 100 times worse.
What the hell was CP3 doing? You get sent home at 3 o'clock in the morning? What the hell were you doing in that locker room? He was doing stuff behind T. Lue's back, going to players, whispering, saying things and causing turmoil when a team when the team is already struggling and going through a lot. The last thing you need is a guy that you brought in to be a positive voice in the locker room, to be a negative voice in the locker room.
And it definitely doesn't work on a veteran team. Think about all the teams that CP has helped recently. I mean, if you take out the Warriors recently, these were all really young squads. His voice works in a younger locker room, but do you think vets want CP barking orders all day? Because on a losing team like this, he's gonna be barking all the time. Like this guy, Daniel Lee on YouTube, is amazing. He points out Chris holding Kawhi accountable for being lazy. Now, I'm not gonna show this whole video, obviously, but you have to go watch this, link in the description. Cavs are trying to burn clock here in the fourth quarter. CP notices this and tells his teammates, hey, but Kawhi just lets Garland roll the ball up, wasting time. Next minute, Kawhi hits a three, Garland rolls the ball again, but Kawhi does nothing. So Chris Paul has to take matters in his own hands and mark Garland. Naturally, CP then goes up to Kawhi and he tells him, wake the heck up. And players like Kawhi and James Harden don't like being held accountable like that. So yes, Chris Paul cared more than certain teammates in big moments. But the part we cannot ignore is we're mostly hearing his version of events here. Everything reported is coming from Chris or people who want his side out there. But when a coach like Ty Lue, a guy that players love, a guy who protects his stars, stops speaking to a future Hall of Famer for weeks, that's not nothing. That tells you there are details here we are not hearing. Details Chris Paul does not want out there. So yeah, Chris is winning the PR battle. He always does. But until we hear the part of the story that isn't coming from him, this whole thing is like a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Partly because the Clippers are not leaking crap about their best ever player. It's actually kind of cool that we're not hearing toxic stories about what he actually did. This is like the opposite of what the Mavericks did in their breakup with Luka. Clips may look like heartless, immature jerks, but there's actually a chance that they are holding back to not burn a bridge just to make themselves look good in the media. But another guy who is not talking is Giannis. Dude apparently just cannot decide whether he wants to be a Buck or not. So right now, NBA teams are putting together their best trade offer. But there's actually only one team that really makes sense.